Hey guys, welcome back to another installment of the RepPath Podcast. Today, guys, we're going to focus on recruiters. Okay, we all work with them. I am one. So I really want you guys to take a lot from this because no matter where you are in the process, you don't even have to be in a medical sales role. You don't even have to be in a sales role or applying for a sales role. It's learning how to effectively work with your recruiters. And we're going to discuss that on today's show. But before we do that, as always, guys, any questions, make sure you submit them into the chat so we can, we'll address some of those about halfway through the show. For all of you out there that have not applied yet or haven't inquired about the RepPath Academy, please go on reppath.com. You could see it here on the screen. Go through the website, check out more info about the Academy. If you're struggling, if you're trying to break into the medical sales industry, guys, this is what we do for a living. We get people in every day. You could see the companies on there that we've helped place. You also at the bottom of the screen can see the testimonials of actual students that have gotten into the industry quickly, some as quickly as 3 weeks. So we continue to make this happen every day, guys. We work with individuals not only around the country, all around the country, but even the world. So please check that out. Set up a call with me if you want more info. You could shoot me a DM on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at joe@reppath.com to learn more. Lastly, if you want to get this recording or anything else any of the other content that we produce, please go on my YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy, so you can subscribe. It's 100% free, guys, so you can get all the content. You can get this recording and any of the other podcasts that we have out there. So other than that, guys, today we're going to talk about recruiters. All right. So I've been doing this a while. When I was in medical sales, guys, I've been in this industry for almost 25 years. I looked at recruiters like they worked for me. Okay. And I was so wrong with that. And I'm not saying because we do recruiting too at the RepPath, because while we work with our candidates to help them break in, we also have a recruiting division that works with clients around the country, but also helps our candidates break into the industry. So I've learned the other side, guys, where you see, their point of view and what they're working on. And one of the things that you have to realize when you start, don't be misinformed like I was and think that a recruiter works for you. The recruiters do not work for sales reps. They work for the medical sales companies. So most of you guys know this, but a lot of times you start to get frustrated when you're looking for jobs and you're looking for that recruiter. And sometimes it gets a little heated because believe me, I'm on a lot of these calls where reps, are looking for a new role. And they're like, Joe, how come you didn't get back to me? And whatever. Like, again, it's not my job, to get back to every single candidate. I try my best. But there's hundreds of applications for every role that we apply for. My goal, is to get people placed as quickly as possible. But at the end of the day, you work for the client. The client is the one, after you place someone, they pay the recruiter. So at the end of the day, the recruiters are working for the client. I just want to be very clear with that. All right. But that doesn't mean that you can't work and partner with recruiters. That's our goal. Our job, again, is to get you placed, but we want to partner with you, but we're not magicians. It doesn't mean that you just start working with a recruiter and their job is just to get you a job right away. That's it. It's all on them. And they should be giving you daily updates. No, guys, there's so many candidates out there. There's so many jobs out there that they're juggling. So you just want to have a good partner. So the stronger relationship, the better that you work with a recruiter, the more likely that they're going to want to work with you. Okay. So look at it as a recruiter as a career advisor, right? They're not here to just, get you the job. They're supposed to present opportunities to you that you should be a fit for. And the more that you have a better relationship with them, the more that they like you, like anything else, guys, they're going to push for you more if you're a good fit for that role. But if you don't have a good relationship, if you're not working well, if you're frustrated, and calling with animosity with the recruiter, they're going to be less likely to help you out. And one thing, guys, that I have to make you aware, it's a small community. All the medical sales recruiters out there, they've worked with each other in the past. There's not thousands of them. There may be 100 top recruiters, throughout the nation. A lot of them have worked together on deals before. They've worked with placements. So you have to be conscious that if you get one pissed off, news travels fast, and if someone is very difficult to work with, they're going to tell the other recruiters when their name comes up. That's just a reality, guys. So I don't want to see any of you fall into that, that being, blackballed or whatever, like a red X put on you. But it's real, because if you're not going to work well with people, your reputation is going to precede you. But the good thing is, if you work well with people, people want to help you. So just realize that relationship. The better relationship you can have with your recruiter, the better you're going to do. Okay. So again, one of the things to start off, we talked about, working well. Couple of things one of the key things that I want to discuss is understanding the recruiter's role. Okay. As a recruiter, again, I have my clients that I work with. I either have a contract with them where it's exclusively they're working just with me, or I work with clients that they work with multiple recruiters. Okay. So I don't get paid automatically with those individuals. I get paid with placements. Sometimes you could get paid. Sometimes when you have an exclusive, that you're going to get paid eventually because it's just you working with that company. But a lot of times companies are working with multiple recruiters, just whoever can get them the job the quickest, whoever fills that role the quickest, they're going to pay that individual. So my job as a recruiter is to make the hiring manager's job easier. So when I get an opening, and then when they call me about an opening and I have a bunch of candidates, I don't just get those candidates and send resumes to the hiring manager and be like, hey, Susan, you're going to love these 20 people. Check them out when you get a chance. If I ever did that, they would never work with me again. My job is to make their job easier and spend as little amount of time as possible with these candidates, doing the background, going over their resumes. So I take the top candidates and then I give a synopsis of their background and why they are a good fit for the role. And then I discuss that with the hiring manager. I'll also send an email that goes over, some of the key points. But again, it's based on those requirements of what they're looking for. They don't make up those requirements that you see in job postings out of thin air, guys. They do that because that's the fit they're looking for. For instance, if it's more of an experienced position and they're looking for someone with at least 3 years in the OR, preferably in orthopedics, that you must live in the Boston area, potentially, they prefer someone that also has startup experience, launch new product experience. All these things I have to take into account and address when I'm speaking to the hiring manager and also when I'm doing my write-ups. So I can't go to them, hey, Susan, by the way, I got someone that I think you'd be great for the Boston area. They have 2 years of cardiology experience, but they have a lot of grit, and they have a strong work ethic, and they're a really hard worker. And I just start throwing out all these adjectives. They would say to me, Joe, what the hell are you doing? That has not what we're asking for. You have to address the requirements that we're asking for. So I simply give the bullet points of what they're asking for. This is an excellent candidate because they live in Boston. They have 4 years of orthopedic experience. They've launched 2 startups, and blah, blah, blah. And I go through each of those bullets. And then if they ask for more details, I give it to them. But I address what the requirements in first. I'm making it easier for them than them having to look through a resume or, give them, pages of information when they just are focusing on those requirements. So I'm saving them time. If I make it easy for them, I save them time. That's what they want. Get me the best candidates, save me the time so I don't have to waste all my time on this. and they'll continue to work with me. So now as a candidate, the easier that you make it for a recruiter, the easier it is for them to make it for the hiring manager. And the more responses you get, and the more likely you're going to get a position. So what do I mean by that? Here's some of the mistakes that I see from you guys make. And not everyone does this, but a lot do. The number one thing, and I did a post on this the other day, it pisses me off, and I'm being straight up with you guys. When you send me a resume and just says, Joe, I'm interested. I've talked about this on other podcasts. If you want to piss a recruiter off, or not even piss them off, you don't want to get a response back, just do that. Say, I'm interested, and send your resume. Number one, you didn't even tell me which role you're going for, because recruiters work on many roles. Sometimes we have 30, 40 roles that we're working on at once. I don't know what you're talking about. You gave me no clues. Now I got to go through your resume and figure out the city that is listed in your resume, and then see if I have multiple roles in certain cities, which I sometimes do. Now I have to figure out which role you're talking about. The more work you give me, the less likely I'm going to do that, because I have another 100 candidates to review, because there's so many people going for these jobs. But the candidates that do get responses for me, they actually read the requirements. They cut and paste those requirements when they send the resume. Okay, so cut and paste those requirements that are listed. Put it in the body of the email. Copy your resume, attach your resume. And then for each requirement, you could put it in a different color. You can indent it. I don't care what you do, but answer each requirement. Bullet point form, not a whole, a whole book for each one. If it asks about a 4-year degree, put the college. Graduated from Boston University in 2016, with a bachelor's in communications, whatever, done. Must reside in Boston, or reside in whatever city right outside of Boston, done. Need 3 years of cardiology experience. I have 4 years of cardiology experience, both at Medtronic and Boston Scientific in their CRM divisions, done. That's how you make it easy. The easier you make it for them, they're going to get back to you guys, because they'll either tell you if you're a fit or not. But if you are a fit, they're going to take that same blurb, that same cut and paste that you did, and do that and send it to the hiring manager. And then they'll add their own notes. But at least you're addressing it. And this is going to be a game changer for you guys. A lot of you that are getting ghosted all the time, it's a good test to see when you're actually bullet point putting in how you're a fit for each role. See how much you're really a fit. Because we all say the same thing. Well, while I don't have that experience, which is another bad line to start when you're reaching out to a recruiter, because then it goes deaf. They go deaf. If you reach out to someone and say, Joe, while I don't have experience, while I don't have cardiology experience, I make up for grit, tenacity, blah, blah, adjective. You already lost me, because the company is asking for that. So I need that to move forward. So when you bullet point these out, you actually read them, you'll see if you're a good fit or not. If there's 5 requirements and you only meet 1, guys, don't apply. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but don't be disappointed when no one gets back to you, because they have too many candidates. Don't focus on those roles that are all reaches. You want to reach once in a blue moon, that's okay. But if you're doing that all day long, you're going to get ghosted more and more, or you're going to get those automatic rejections, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to give up on this journey. I don't want to see that happen. Focus on the roles that you're at least minimum of 50% fit for. Minimum. If you don't meet 50%, don't apply. There's too many candidates out there, guys. There's a lot of entry-level jobs out there. So there's tons of openings in this industry. There's just tons of people going for these jobs. So a lot of times you'll tell me, Joe, I know the market's slow right now. I know there's not many medical sales jobs. The industry has changed. We're in a recession. These are all excuses you tell yourself. I did it too. So I'm not blaming anyone out there. I was one of those too, that I'm like, oh yeah, it's slow right now. Or, in February, they're really going to ramp up. There's not many openings. I live in a weird area, so there's not as many openings over here. Guys, there's openings everywhere. Obviously, there's more in New York City than there are out in North Dakota. But you don't want to start making all those excuses. A lot of times when you don't hear back, is because you're not doing these things. You're not applying to jobs that you're qualified for. You're not letting them know how you're a fit. You fill it with adjectives. Don't fill it. The more adjectives you're using, the less likely you're fitting that role. They don't need you to say all day long, you're hardworking, grit, tenacious, smart, quick learner, all that. Guys, they get this constantly. Be factual. Show your statistics like you do in your resume. It's about the results. That's what they want to see, when you're reaching out to them. So this is very important, guys. You need to do this. The lesson here is make the recruiter's job easier. It's going to make the hiring manager's job easier, and you're going to get more responses. You're going to get ghosted less, and it's going to help you with your chances of getting those roles. Okay. Next, guys, you want to be clear what you want. If you're open to anything, I understand that. Okay. But if you're really not open to anything, don't say that. The last thing you want to do is say, Joe, because I have this happen all the time too. Joe, I'm open to any medical sales role. I don't care if it's pharma, device, capital equipment, diagnostics. I don't care. I just want to break in. And I believe a lot of people, want that. But then I present a role to you and you go, no, Joe, I'm sorry. That's not enough money for me. Or, I won't work. I can't work late in the OR because I have to pick up my kids after school and my wife works too. Or, yeah, Joe, I won't relocate. I'm sorry. So don't say anything then. Because if I do that and now I'm actually hyping you up with a hiring manager because I think you'd be a great fit, and then you tell me, no, that's really not for me. Guys, don't waste their time, because I'm telling you now, if you do that, they're going to be less likely to want to work with you. If you want to be super specific, that's up to you, but let them know exactly what you want. Joe, I don't want to be in the OR. I have to be home by 6:00. I would like to be just office-based sales. I only can work in the Boston area. That's fine. It's going to be, the more specific you are, obviously it's harder, there's less roles, but that's okay, because at least we know when that role does come up, you're a good fit for it. But don't overpromise and underdeliver that, oh yeah, I'll do anything. And then meanwhile, we start presenting opportunities to you because this is anything. And then you back away, because if you back away, the recruiters, they're not going to deal with you. There's too many candidates. They'll go, okay, he's already given me problems. He doesn't really know what he wants. I'm going to just, focus in this area, or I'll focus on these other reps. So just let them know what you want. It's okay to be picky, but just, if you're going to be picky, realize there's going to be less opportunities, but don't tell them things that you don't really want to do. Okay. And another thing on that note, if you don't want a job, if you know that you don't want this job, don't take the interview just to take the interview. Okay. I see this a lot too, guys. A lot of times I won't move someone forward if I say to them, are you interested? Yeah, I'm always interested in new opportunities. Okay. I didn't ask you that. That to me is not a good sign. That's a red flag. That means you don't really want this job, but you're keeping your options open. Now, do I really want to go to bat for you with a hiring manager saying what a great fit you are? Having multiple calls back and forth. Sometimes a management pushes back and you're really fighting for them. And then you're this half-assed, yeah, Joe, I'm open. I'm open to hearing anything. No, guys, you need to know, is this something that you could see yourself doing? I'm not saying commit that day. Obviously, you have to learn more. But if you don't feel strongly about a role, that this isn't for you, tell them that. They'd rather have that honesty, guys, than make them go through all that work and then you back out last minute. That's the worst thing for a recruiter. And I'm not sitting here just defending recruiters the whole time. I'm just trying to teach everyone to not do some of these things so they can work better, because to recruiters, it's going to be a better relationship. A lot of these things you might not realize that you're doing. Again, it's just to educate. I'm not here defending all recruiters. There's some great recruiters out there. Just like any other industry, there's some bad recruiters. So I don't agree with a lot of recruiters do. And I think a lot of recruiters, other recruiters do a great job. But I'm not just some recruiter advocate that's all I'm fighting for. At the end of the day, the more people that we can get placed, obviously the more money the recruiter makes. So we want to see reps get the jobs they want, but you got to work with them. You can't mislead them or they won't work with you. Okay. So again, takeaway is know what you want. If you don't want something, that's okay. Just tell them. Okay. Next is let the recruiter control the process. So this is important, guys. Sometimes when you guys say, for instance, you have that first interview, the recruiter says, give me a call afterwards. Let me know how it goes. And then I don't know that you got the hiring manager's phone number or email. And now all of a sudden you're doing things behind my back, trying to now take over the process. That you don't want to do, guys. You want to own it. I understand you want to own the process. And if the manager said, please get back to me, any of that conversation where you're supposed to be in touch with them too, I'm all for that. Just don't blindside the recruiter and start sending things and doing things without the recruiter knowing and start trying to take over that process, because that could backfire, guys. Don't make the recruiter your competitor. They're there to support you. So whatever it is that you're looking to do, just make them aware. You don't want to try to take over the process when they're the ones that the company is typically going to go through. Because sometimes you can do things that the recruiter could say, hey, I know you did that with your other job, but I know this hiring manager. He doesn't really like when you reach out to him multiple times a week. They know this is their client. So they know them inside and out. So whatever you're discussing, it's great to have a game plan, but keep them involved. Don't just all of a sudden try to take over the process, because again, it could ruin everything for you, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that whatever you're doing, you guys are doing it together and you're making them aware. Also, if you're talking with a recruiter, because I've had this where recruiters, they have a conversation with you and you paint yourself in one picture. The recruiter, talks you up in that way, and then all of a sudden now you're totally revamping yourself in a different way. You don't want to do that. For instance, you could say to a recruiter, I'm a very clinical type of person. I sell very clinically, and then the recruiter's talking about your clinical skills, really highlighting that. And then you're getting in there and you're talking about all your relationships and how you sell based on relationships. Now, I'm just making this up as an example. You want to be on the same page. You don't want to paint two different pictures, because at the end of the day, guys, it's going to affect you than it is the recruiter. So you don't want to paint two different pictures. The hiring manager, they know that a lot of times candidates say different things to get, to make themselves sound better. Just be on the same page. Don't be a different person that you paint it with the recruiter that you're going to be with the hiring manager. Be that individual that is, giving you the success in life, and stay on course with that. Don't change it mid-course, because again, it just creates more confusion and it's going to affect you for that role. Communication, guys. This is key. Okay. Again, I always thought recruiters didn't work that hard when I was on the sales side. I'm like, this is easy. These guys, they present, they read a couple of resumes, they send it over, and then they get, $20,000, $30,000 commission checks. It's a piece of cake, that job. Guys, there's a lot of work that goes into it. A lot of back and forth. Even the simple, getting interviews scheduled. How much back and forth? Did people actually get the invite? Did they get the presentation material that I sent over? Did they review everything? All the things back and forth that you're juggling as a recruiter between the hiring manager and the rep, that if you're not communicating with us, it makes it hard. If you're not getting back to us in a timely manner, you're going to scare recruiters that you're not that interested in the job. So if you want a job, guys, we all understand you might have another job that, you're not going to respond within seconds. But if they get the inclination that you're not that interested, they will pull you themselves, because they'll be afraid to get you in front of that hiring manager, because they think at the end of the day, you're not going to take the job. And there's nothing worse for a recruiter that if you get a job and then leave within a couple of weeks. because to educate some of you guys on how they get paid, sometimes they don't get paid for months. You have to last 3-6 months or more at a company for that recruiter to get their commission. So if they think you're going to leave or you're entertaining, better jobs, you're not really into this job, they're going to be afraid to move you forward. So just have that communication. If you really want something, don't wait 2 days to get back to me when I'm asking you a question or saying, are you available on Thursday? And you don't get back to me till Wednesday. Like, no, guys, that's not the right approach. You got to make sure that you're treating them just like you would treat a customer, just like you would treat one of your doctors, just like you would treat the hiring manager. Get back to them in a timely manner. The more that shows that you want the job, the more they're going to push for you. So communication is key. You always want to have that strong communication because it's only going to help you. Sorry. Okay. We talked about this a little bit earlier too, and this is about burning bridges. Now, sometimes things happen, guys, but again, one of the key things that I've seen happen with candidates where they're interviewing with multiple companies. Okay. Transparency is key, guys. I want you to interview with multiple companies. I want you to get a job. I really do. But if you're interviewing and you're in a final interview with another company, and I say to you that this company is looking to move forward with you, my client, and they're looking to set up a final interview, I will ask all candidates, are you interviewing anywhere else? And where are you in the process? Excuse me. I'm not there to say I'm not going to back away from you or not move you forward just because you're in a final interview with another company. Absolutely not. I'm still going to push you forward if I think you're a good candidate, but don't blindside me and say, nope, Joe, I'm great. This is the only company I'm interviewing with. If I get the role, I'm definitely taking it. And I've had this happen many times. They get the offer, then we don't hear from the candidate for a couple of days. And then finally they get back to say, Joe, I'm sorry. This opportunity came up, and they give some bullshit that all of a sudden it came up out of the blue and they got this amazing offer within 2 days. Guys, we know how the process works. It doesn't happen like that. That means you were moving forward in some capacity with that company. Just be honest. Because if you screw a recruiter over that way, they won't work with you in the future. They won't. You'll wonder why you're getting ghosted. Trust me, you never know who they know. You never know if they say, hey, by the way, don't work with Joe Licata. He screwed me over here. I got him an offer, and then he backed out because he was hired. He interviewed with another company. He was in a final interview and never told me. Now it's going to scare off other recruiters. So you don't want that, guys. Just be honest. Be straight up with them. Excuse me. Any recruiter that tells you you only can be interviewing with his company, if you're interviewing anywhere else, they won't work with you, then they're no good either. You just got to have that honest communication. Say, yeah, you know what? I actually am in a final interview. That is my top priority, that other company. Just tell them, and they can let them know. Sometimes it works in your favor because you could say, hey, Joe, listen, I just got another offer the other day, excuse me, for $20,000 more on the base. But if this company could come up, because they're not really trying to haggle, they're just being honest. And I got 20,000 more, now the recruiter can go back to the company and be transparent with them. Yeah. Bob got 20,000 more, with XYZ company. If you guys came up, then maybe he would come over. But if not, most likely he's going to go with this other company. You never know. If they really want you, sometimes they can renegotiate. Sometimes they can get a sign-on bonus. But if the recruiter doesn't know this and you blindside them and all that stuff happens, they can't help you. So just be honest. Even if you think it's not going to, you're never going to get in trouble by being honest. You're going to get in trouble by bullshitting because it's a long career, guys. Most of you aren't going to last one job for 40 years and never need a recruiter again. I've worked with the same recruiters over and over on multiple jobs throughout my career. Excuse me. So the worst thing I could have done is piss one of them off because they never want to work with me again. And I'll give you a story. One time, excuse me, I was interviewing, I'm not going to mention company names or anything, but I was interviewing for a role that I was doing well throughout the process. And I was getting to the final interview where I had to do a little presentation. And I got to be honest, I was trying to make myself feel stronger about what I was going to sell. And I really wasn't that into it. But instead of being upfront with the recruiter, I didn't share that information. And then when push came to shove, they were getting ready, depending on that final interview, to make me an offer. And I backed out. I pissed off that recruiter. And you know what? The guy never worked with me again. Never heard from him again. Never got any other opportunities. That was it. And I knew it. I screwed up. I should have just been honest from day one. Because maybe I could have had conversations that the recruiter could have said, hey, by the way, Joe, I had another candidate that was a little unsure, but you know that the reimbursements are great with this product, or they also offer this. Like, you don't know. If you're honest, he could probably tell me some things, or maybe not. But I screwed myself, with that relationship, that recruiter, because I wasn't upfront with him. So please, guys, just be honest. There's no one's going to get mad at you for being honest. So the other thing I want to talk about is, who should I be working with? I get this a lot. Joe, how many recruiters should I be working with? Which one should I be working with? Guys, this isn't like back in the day where, you typically worked with like the one medical sales recruiter. Like when I started in the industry, there was only a couple out there. So you worked with whoever you get, the one or two. But it's not like you have someone selling your house and you're working with the realtor. Work with as many recruiters as possible. Okay. I don't want someone to just be working with me. Work with as many people as possible. Whoever can get you a job first, that's what you want. Go with that. You don't owe them anything to just be loyal to one recruiter to find you a job. You owe them just your professional courtesy. That's all. Just being honest with them. That's all you owe them. But work with as many recruiters as possible. Just be focused on what you're looking for. Don't do the spray and pray technique. We talk about this all the time at the academy. We talk about this all the time on the podcast. You don't want to just get your resume and send it out to anyone and everyone. It doesn't work that way, guys. Be more specific, and go hardcore for less roles. Have those conversations like we talk about on every podcast with all the sales reps. Learn more about that opportunity. Really dig in and get enough information before you meet that hiring manager like you already worked there. That's the key. But that doesn't mean you only can work with one recruiter. Work with as many as possible. And one of the keys that we do to help candidates that sign up for the RepPath Academy, once we get their resume optimized, we get it uploaded into our system. And then we also get it uploaded into our network, which I work with, a great network that has the top medical sales recruiters in the nation. And so they don't just let anyone join this network. It goes through a rigorous interview process where I had to go through like 7 interviews myself with the board and everything just to get approved. And I still have to pay a fee to be a member. But when I work with all the top recruiters in the nation, so if they have openings, we're constantly helping each other out to get people placed as quickly as possible. Once we get your resume optimized, we get you uploaded into their database, so everyone can help. So now you have access to all these recruiters. So it's a great benefit of the program. But again, if you're not part of it and you can work with multiple recruiters, do that. Whoever can get you the best opportunity, the quickest, and make sure, and it's something you want to do, you're going to work with them. Okay. So I'm going to take a pause right now. James, any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, we got a couple. We got, let's start with Cindy Martin over on LinkedIn. What is your recommendation on how to build a relationship with a recruiter, since you mentioned it was important? Many times you have a short call with them to discuss opportunities and how to work together, and they say, just follow my page and watch for my job postings.
Yeah, I mean, the number one is being specific. Okay, when you're working with the recruiter, don't say, like I said at the beginning, don't say you'll take anything if you don't really mean that. If you're looking for 100 base and 250, total at plan or total OTE, tell them that. Give some of these details that you are either willing to relocate or no, you only are willing to work in opportunities in New Jersey or whatever state you live in or city you live in. The more specifics you can give, the better. I only am looking at medical device roles. I don't want pharma roles, or I only want pharma. I don't want device. Give as many specifics as you can. And if you are open, that's great too. But just by saying I'm open to anything and being vague, it's going to make it harder. Or if you tell recruiters, because I get this a lot, and you're not going to get responses when they say, I'm looking at Boston, Charlotte, Austin, San Francisco, Dallas, and Denver. And it's like, okay. So you want basically any city in the US. Like, guys, be more specific, and then it's okay to follow up with those recruiters. I try to follow up. I enter you in my database. Whenever there's an opening, I do searches where your resume should pop up, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, again, there's so many things going on, I forget. So it's okay to routinely follow up with your recruiter. Are you going to call them every 2 days to see if something else came up? No. But to shoot them an email and be like, hey, Joe, just want to make sure I'm visible, I'm on your radar. If you do have anything in Jacksonville, in the med device space or whatever that is, you give your little specific reminders again. That's okay too. But the key thing if you really want a good relationship and you see an opening that they post, the number one thing you could do, guys, is let them know that number one, you read those requirements, you cut and paste them, put them into the body of the email with your resume and bullet point how you're a fit. I guarantee you're going to get more responses because that's an organized individual that knows what they want. You're making their job easier. That's going to help the relationship. It's not like it's different than, building relationships with sales reps. If you call the recruiter every week to try to get friendly with them, that's not going to work either. Don't do that. Let them know why you're a good fit. That's a better way of working with them. You call them every week, they're not going to answer, guys. There's thousands of candidates they deal with. They can't. It's not like they don't want to. They can't stay on the phone all day long. Because a lot of times I get individuals that try to set up calls on my calendar, and then they just want to tell me, they want half hour of my time to tell me everything about their background. Like, no, first off, I need the opening to work with first. So get me your resume, give me the bullets of what you're looking for. And then if it's a fit, I'm going to reach out to you. But you don't want to just keep calling people and think I'm going to build a relationship with a recruiter that way. You build a relationship by making their job easier. When there's an opening, again, do what I said, and that's going to help your relationship. Cut, paste, list the reasons why you're a fit, and also let them know the exact role you're going for. But they're going to want to keep working with you if you do that.
We got Chris D87. Is it better to go direct on the company career page or through a recruiter? Been doing both and hearing crickets.
Okay. Number one, either, obviously if you have a physical person that you're sending it to, typically I see better results that way. A lot of times those career pages, again, I don't really know where they're going every time, but it's not as effective than if you can send it. The best case scenario is having someone that works at that company that is an advocate for you. So that's your referral. So I don't want anyone, and we teach this at the academy, we don't want anyone just applying blindly to jobs. It's okay to send your resume to an opening, but what are you doing after that? The reason why you're hearing crickets, there could be many things. It could be your resume. It could be the jobs you're applying for, you're not a fit. There could be many reasons why you're not hearing back. But if you want to improve your chances right off the bat, when you send that either to the recruiter or through the website, who are you reaching out to that moment to try to start building a relationship? So if it's an opening at XYZ company and you applied, through their website and you're saying, okay, now what? Okay, start reaching out to reps on LinkedIn that work at XYZ and see and talk, especially in that specific division. The closer you can find people that are connected to that opening, the better your chances are to get that role, to get an interview. So you want to be on the phone with these people and be selling yourself on why you're a fit, how you fit the needs of that role. Because I actually had a candidate who just got a job recently with us that sent it in, got the automatic rejection, but was networking at the same time, where one of the reps went to the manager and said, I got a great rep. And it said they rejected him, saying that they're moving in a different direction. He's like, really? It shouldn't have said that, because he went to bat for him. Now, because he built that relationship, they still interviewed him, even after he got that that automated rejection. So that's the power of having the relationships. He didn't know this person before he applied. It's not like he had a friend there that he knew since high school. He built the relationship throughout the process after he applied. So do that, guys. That is more important. I forgot the name of who asked that question, but make sure that when you're sending the resume, you're networking at the same time. That's the best thing you could do, whether it's through a recruiter, whether it's through a website. You want to get in touch with those reps that are at the company. That's the key.
We have Alex Fitlife. What do you even say in the first message to a recruiter on LinkedIn without coming off thirsty? LOL.
I mean, they know you don't have a job. If you're looking for a job, it's okay to be, hungry or thirsty for a job. They get it. It's not like you're desperate because you're some weird person that wants to make money. They know, if you don't have a job or you're not happy with your job, yeah, you should be thirsty. You should be hungry for that next role. That's okay. But again, be specific in what you're looking for. Let them know that. Don't send them things that is going to send them on a wild goose chase that you don't really want. So just let them know. But I would start with an opening. Just reaching out to recruiters saying that you really want to get into the industry and blah, 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 blah. Odds are they're not going to respond to that, guys. They get these emails constantly. I want to look at the reopening that you're looking for. Oh, by the way, Joe, I see that you're the recruiter for the Pfizer opening in their neurology division in San Francisco, and then this is, again, cut and paste the requirements with your resume. Here's why I'm a perfect fit. And then put the bullets of why you're a perfect fit. That's a great way to reach out to a recruiter. If you just are calling up recruiters and be like, hey, I'm on the market. I think I'd be great in this industry. I come with a lot of tenacity, energy, again, adjective. So let me know when you have anything. They're going to be like, okay, no problem. They're not going to care, guys. You have to be focusing on a role and why you're a fit for that role. That's how you reach out to a recruiter the first time. Don't just reach out and just send resumes. It's not going to go anywhere. They need an opening to work on that you're actually looking to apply for.
Daniel Bennett, how do you find recruiters and how to decide if they are in it for themselves?
How do you find out if they're in it for themselves?
And how do you find recruiters?
Well, I mean, how do you find recruiters? That's simple. You just go on LinkedIn, type in medical sales recruiters. Type in, if you're looking in pharma recruiters, medical device recruiters. I mean, a lot of them are going to pop up just by doing those searches. But if you're going to know if they're in it for themselves, who gives a shit? If they are or not, who cares? If they get you a job, I mean, let's be real. Hiring recruiters, they get paid when you get placed. Okay, so they want to see you get placed. Like me, I like to see people achieve their goals, but I also want to get paid. If I was getting paid, I wouldn't do this job. So I want to see you succeed, but I need to get paid too. So who cares what my motivation is? If I can get you a job and I'm doing it for me, do you care? So you're never going to know that either, what their motives are. Who gives a shit? If they're getting you, in front of more hiring managers, they're getting you more opportunities, that's all you should care about. Don't even worry about their intentions. If they're not getting back to you, they're not doing basically anything for you, whatever. You don't have to, again, that's why you're not worrying or relying on one recruiter. Whoever can get you opportunities, that's what you're going to go for, whether it's one recruiter or 50. Who cares? And don't worry about their intentions. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect you one way or the other. You're there to get a job. But I like that question, though, Daniel. It's a good question.
We have Night Owl Nick. Is it a bad sign when a recruiter reaches out to you first? Feels like those are always the roles nobody else wanted.
No, I wouldn't say that, Nick. I think that it depends. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes they could be reaching out because nobody wants the job. Sometimes they're reaching out the first thing because you're a fit. Excuse me. So the way my process works, a company reaches out to me, they have an opening in a city. The first thing I do, I go into my ATS, my applicant tracking system, where I have all my resumes, and I type in the background of what they're looking for. If it's Chicago, I put Chicago in my city. If they're looking for B2B experience, I type in keywords B2B. I see who pops up. And then I get more and fine tune it more and more. And then if reps are meeting the requirements, I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, are you still looking? I got a great opportunity. Excuse me. So you don't know. That doesn't mean that it's always the bottom of the barrel. They're trying to find anyone. If they're reaching out to you about an opportunity and you don't have a job, take the call. What does it hurt? Again, you're never going to know for sure, but you don't want to say, yeah, that's probably a shitty job, so I'm not going to answer that call. What? No. Take the call, see what they have to offer. If it sounds interesting, what's the worst that happens? You apply. So definitely don't look at it in a negative way that people are only reaching out to you for those jobs no one wants.
Sarah Klein, Joe, be real. Do recruiters actually read cover letters in this industry, or is nobody looking at those?
Great question. I've never read a cover letter in my life. The only time I've ever read cover letters, if people wanted specific training, and I'll help you with it, but I can give two shits about a cover letter. That means nothing to me. I care about your results. As a hiring manager, I care if you're getting into sales, especially if you have previous sales experience. I care about your results. I care what you're ranked. I care how much you grew. I care what your percent to quota was, what awards you won, but then I care about your process when we get in the interview. But if I'm not going to sit here and a cover letter, I know a lot of times online, I'm not sitting here to say, don't make a cover letter and don't apply when companies ask for it. Because a lot of times that's like HR, stuff that they, or sometimes online, they make you click that box for the cover letter. But I don't know a hiring manager or recruiter that ever said, Joe, that was such a good candidate. They did so well. Their resume was great. Everything was great, but I can't move forward because they had a shitty cover letter. No one cares about cover letters. Only do it just to check the boxes if they make you do it to apply online or if someone asks for it. But I can guarantee you 99% of the recruiters and hiring managers are not reading
them. We have Jordan Phelps 12. Is it cool to tell a recruiter you're also working with other recruiters, or does that kill the whole vibe?
Nope. That's great. Great question, Jordan. Be honest. They don't care, to be honest with you. They don't really expect you to only be working with them. They want the client. So think of it this way, guys. If any of you guys have sold a house before, or if you're younger and your parents have sold a house, you'll have a lot of friends, family, or other realtors that want to get that listing. Okay, that's the key. They want to be the listing agent. The reason why they want that's going to guarantee them money whenever that house sells. So there's the listing agent, and then there's actually the person that sells the house, that brings the buyer in. That's the selling agent. So if the listing agent sells it by themselves, they don't have anyone else in the deal, they got the house listing, and then they found the buyer, then they'll get the full commission, the 5 or 6%. But if there's a listing agent that got the listing, but someone else brings a buyer in, they're good. They're still happy because they're still going to split that 5 or 6% and get 2.5 or 3%. So they're happy, right? That's why they want the listing. They don't care if someone else sold it. Okay, great. As long as we sell it, we make money. It's the same thing with a recruiter. They care more about getting the client who's going to give them the opening. That's what they want, because now if I work with another recruiter and they bring a candidate in, we're going to split the fee 50-50, but I still get paid. But if I do it on my own, yeah, then I get the whole fee. But I want the client who's going to give me the openings, because then I'm guaranteed the opening. If I know you're working with multiple recruiters, good for you. I don't care. I don't sit here and say, nope, you can't go to anyone else but me. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Work with as many and tell them. They don't even have to say it. They know that. But if you want to be transparent, be like, I just want you to know, Joe, I'm working with multiple recruiters. Anybody that gives you shit, stop working with them, because there's someone that doesn't even deserve the commission. That's not a good individual. And there's very few people out there that will be like that. They'll probably tell you, good for you, God bless, whatever you could do to get a job as quickly as possible, that's great. But they're assuming that you're working with multiple recruiters and not them, not just them.
We got Becca Lee. Joe, what's the one thing on a resume that makes a recruiter immediately swipe left on somebody?
If it's a sales role and they have sales experience, seeing no sales results. Seeing a bunch of sales results, a bunch of sales positions on their resume, and I don't see any numbers, that's usually a red flag, because I know that the hiring manager, a lot of them, they want to see individuals that have proven sales success. And the first clue is on the resume. If I don't see those numbers, I typically, if it's a sales role, if they're looking for a sales background. Now it's different if they are open to clinical backgrounds, individuals from different industries, then that's different, but if that's not on there, that's a typical swipe left. If there's, if it's too wordy and it's paragraph, just so much reading that you have to do and nothing is jumping out at me, that's typically a red flag. I'm not saying every time that I'm just going to automatically, swipe left. If you don't have a city and state on your resume, because a lot of you guys do this. Some people have told me, well, yeah, if I do that, then I'm open to all opportunities around the country. No, it's the opposite, guys. If when I save a resume into the ATS, into my system, it's going to read the city and state. So then when I have an opening a couple months later in that city and state, your resume is going to pop up. But a lot of times you don't have it listed, then I don't know, it's not going to show up. Or if I do get a resume and there's no city and state on there, now I got to figure out, well, where do you live? Now I got to do another phone call to call you up and say, hey, by the way, do you live in Boston? So that's an extra step that creates more work for the recruiter. Like I said earlier, the more work you create for them, the less likely they are to continue to work with you. So the easier you make for them, the more likely they're going to work for you. But those are some of the key things that jump out at me. Of course, there's grammatical errors. There's just poorly written resumes that are just, you look at right away and they have run-on sentences, or they don't have any bullet points for results, or they don't have descriptions of what they sold in a role. They have dates missing, all those things that are just poorly written resumes where you'll just pass on it, because if you send it to the hiring manager, and this is a good lesson too, guys. So whoever asked that, great question. Remember, whoever I send over is a reflection of my work. So if there's poorly written resumes, if there's misalignment that they don't match, if I keep sending those over, grammatical errors, all these things that I'm just saying, screw it, I don't care, I'm just going to send it over anyway. The client's going to stop working with me. So I have to make sure that everything looks buttoned up, because it's a reflection of me and my team for that client to keep working with me. So that's why they want to make sure, even though they're not hiring you, they're not going to just throw anyone at them, because it's going to ruin their reputation.
Daniel Bennett, thoughts on a 1099?
I think 1099s are great, especially if you're trying to break into the industry. It's not for the weak, the faint of heart. But if you, because you hear this all the time, guys, I could sell anything. I'm not afraid. I could go out there. Guys, 1099s are, that's, you go out there and eat what you kill. You're not going to get a base. You're not going to get the car allowance. You're not going to get the benefits. You're going to have to pay out of pocket to do any lunch or breakfast or whatever else, pay for parking, pay for your gas. As long as you know what you're getting yourself into, there are great opportunities out there, especially to break in. Because I know individuals that are trying to get that W-2 opportunity, but they take 1099 opportunities first to get some experience. And then in time, all of a sudden now they're becoming a better candidate because they do have experience calling in hospitals. They do have experience calling on doctors. They understand, what it's like to work in an operating room. They get that experience. I love that. Go out there and get it. That's the takeaway. Don't wait for people to give it to you. Go out there and get it. That's how the majority of the people in this industry become successful. It's not all handouts, guys, and relationships that got them jobs because their uncle or father or cousin is a doctor and got them in. A lot of the top reps, they go get it during the process. If someone says you need B2B experience to work here, they go get the experience. They go get that 1099 role. Because some of those 1099 roles, they could start out and you could struggle and you spend money out of your pocket. Then all of a sudden you get in your groove, you start making some sales. They could pay substantial commissions where you don't want to leave and you do really well. And you go, screw this. I love working at a 1099. I'm never going to get a 30% commission at a W-2 position. So there's a lot of great roles. I definitely think keep your options open there because there's great 1099 roles.
We have Megan runs 26.2. Is it normal for a recruiter to push you towards a role you never even applied to? Happened to me last week and it felt off.
They're pushing. You're basically saying that they found a role that they thought you'd be interested in. I mean, that's the way I'm reading that.
That's
Absolutely.
how I'm reading it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very normal. I mean, that's what they should be doing. A good recruiter should say, hey, you may not have seen this on your radar, or I know, you mentioned this criteria, but this is something interesting that you didn't mention that you might be interested in. I think that's great. Guys, at the end of the day, who cares? If you're interested and you like it, great, then you move forward. If not, you're not interested, you're not going to hurt their feelings. You don't move forward. The recruiters get it. They again, just be honest. So when they present something to you, if you're not into that, just tell them that. Don't feel funny that you don't want to insult them and then string them along. Trust me, stringing them along is way worse than saying, no, Joe, that's not for me, but thanks anyway. So it's very normal to have that happen.
All right. The last question, Kayla MRN. What's the absolute worst piece of recruiter advice you've ever heard, Joe? I know you have stories.
Recruiter advice that I'm assuming that the best piece of advice I can give you. So like the worst thing you could do again is the accepting a role with someone else or being in a final interview and not being transparent with a recruiter. Because if you get to that offer stage, it's going to make them look bad with their client. And if it could cost them potentially losing a client, because just quick scenario, again, I had a situation where we had a great candidate. She was doing great. They were getting ready. They actually met with her for coffee during the interview process because they liked her so much. And they just like, hey, do you want to meet us? Because like they were already like making it known, you're our girl. You're the one we want for this position. And the whole time I'm asking her, are you interviewing anywhere else? Are you in a final stage? No. Sure enough, they make the offer. They go, Joe, we didn't hear back. And then 2 days later, I'm calling. After a couple of days, she finally texts me back, by the way, and said, Joe, sorry, I took this other role, but thank you so much for everything you did for me. I mean, I will never work with that individual again, ever. And if someone sends me her, for a potential opening, I won't put her through because she's going to screw me over. You did it once. That's it. So don't do that. Be transparent, guys. That's the best advice. So the worst advice would be don't be transparent. Bullshit all recruiters. Tell them whatever they want to hear. Lie to them. You're going to burn bridges, and then you're going to wind up blackballing yourself from having them work with you. So please don't do that. Just be transparent, and everyone, everything's going to work out.
That's all I got for you today.
That's it. Well, again, thank you, James.
Always, Joe.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. And thanks everyone for the great questions. Again, anything you guys, you may not have asked, you want to talk about, shoot me a DM, reach out to me, shoot me an email, joe@reppath.com. But for all you candidates out there that are struggling, that you just can't move forward, we can help. Go to RepPath.com. Check out the RepPath Academy. Check out those testimonials. Believe me, guys, all the things we're talking about, we help with at the Academy. We have our recruiting team that works with individuals, that helps them get placed, but join the Academy, guys. I'm telling you, this is where we do not only do we have our modules, but we have our live group training every Tuesday and Thursday, so please go on the website. Please check all this out. So we can, we can't reach out to you and find you out of nowhere. We're not mind readers. So if you're struggling, you need help, please reach out to us so we can help you get in. And lastly, any lobby members, please give the promo code. If you are looking to join and you want to get additional discounts, give the promo code Licata, Licata, so that can get you additional discounts. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining today. As always, we're here every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I look forward to speaking to you this Wednesday at 3. Have a great week, guys. Take care.